And we are live. Hi, Ron. Welcome,
Hey, dude.
welcome.
Hi,
Thanks for
Mark.
responding to my last minute request.
My pleasure. No, that's cool. I'm pretty.
Hopefully,
I'm stoked.
cool. And invited McMo. Hopefully, he'll see it and can come in or not.
Yeah.
Um, Anybody is welcome. The link is pinned at the top of the comments. And Sherry looks like she's watching. Maybe she at least posted a
Hey,
comment. That'd be great
she's
for
looking.
Sherry to
She's
come
watching
in.
and listening.
So, okay, where we left off on this subject, um, it was last live stream was can I had this sense that I was this is a recap. I had this sense that
Hmm.
I was to pray for my mother as a little girl. Things were going badly. It was it
Hmm.
was um, it was she was not doing well.
Right.
A lot of anxiety, fear, emotional distress associated with the dementia,
Hmm.
and it was you know nothing was working. It was just kind of up and down, a lot of difficulty, and but at the same time, I had this quote unquote crazy idea under my head that maybe I should that I was, with all respect to the Lord, a sense of leading that I should pray for her as a little girl. That is the
Right.
girl that was heavily traumatized by a lot of abuse at home and alcoholism and a violent stepfather who would ultimately be jailed. Her father was murdered when she was her biological father was murdered when she was around the age of 11, I think. And so this is a very traumatized person, and now she's
Yeah.
82 and losing her faculties slowly as a result of mixed dementia, which is a combination of Alzheimer's and vascular uh,
Hmm.
damage caused by mini strokes and seizures over many years, damage to the brain through that process. Anyway, so it's a double whammy, and she's it's not just memory issues. There are episodes of paranoid delusions and uh, what they call confabulations, which are mixtures of memories with real life events that get all discombobulated and become almost like hallucinations. You just completely misremember what just happened, for example, or you don't quite understand the moment you're in, and you think you might have an encounter with a person that reminds you of your violent stepfather when you were a child, and
Hmm.
you're suddenly in the moment
Yeah.
emotionally. It's bad. It's really can be
That's not
it's very rough. It's hard to watch. It's hard to much harder, I'm
right.
sure, to live with. And you struggle to try to find ways to deal with it. And I we are constantly consulting with our physicians to adjust medication, introduce new meds that help manage the anxiety and the various states of mind. Anyway, that's the setup. I've been dealing with this now for years, but it's been aggressively. It's been getting worse and worse and worse, and I just was feeling kind of at the end of my rope this last time when I talked,
Hmm.
and on the last live stream, and when this thought came to me to pray for her as a little girl. Well, and McMo, the reason I invited McMo to join us is he asked the question, well, what's the hesitation, Mark? It's kind of hard on me. And I said, well, I don't, was it hesitation or was it just, um, or was it just bewilderment?
Right. Yeah.
And
I
go ahead. Yeah, go.
I think it was not hesitation. It was figuring out if this thing works correct. Does this thing work this way? Can we do this? It wasn't hesitation.
Okay.
I know hesitation is going, I can do it. I don't know if I can do it. I want to do it. Or
Right.
it wasn't hesitation. I think it was bewilderment.
Yeah. That's the best word I have for it,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think. But McMill
Mm.
wasn't wrong in challenging me. Let me make that clear too. And that's why I wanted him here. And maybe he'll see it and pop in, or maybe he'll see it in the comments and
Mm.
we'll talk about it at some point in the future. Um, and what? So anyway, Sunday comes. I'm really feeling it still. This is.
Mm.
I think I recorded it on. Did I record it on Saturday? Was the last time on Saturday? And okay, so I recorded a live stream. Sunday comes, and I mean it's just a pounding headache. It's taking me everything I can muster to show up to church, and I go to. I mean, I know when I'm down. One nice thing about living with bipolar disorder for so long, you know when you're down, you know when you're up, and you know when it's not normal. And this was not a normal state of mind. And I was on the down, and I'm losing the down. You know, sometimes I am become a little too cocky and say I surf these moods. I wasn't surfing this time. I'm underwater.
You're getting tubed.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
So but I'm there, and they're going through Matthew, the miracles in the Sunday school class, the adult Sunday school class, which is the only Sunday school class we have, because we're all old. And it was Matthew 14. We get in at some point. We get into Matthew 14, and it is the. Let's see if I can pull it up. It's the. Actually, maybe better. I can do it. Anyway, hold on just a second. I wasn't prepared. It was so Matthew 14, and John the Baptist is beheaded. Jesus takes off into the desert, and the crowd follows him. It's the precursor. This is the lead up to. It's the chapter that contains the feeding of the 5,000.
Mm.
Okay, and we get into it's one the Sunday school leaders. He asked the question, was everyone there a believer? And everyone in the room agreed, no, not everyone was a believer. I'm like, not a believer? Thought about it. I looked at the text, and the text says, a desolate place. They followed him to a desolate place. And I'm like going, these aren't just believers. These are the hardcore. They followed him out into the desert to the point where they could faint going home for lack of food. They don't have enough food. They don't have enough water to get them back to civilization. And Jesus says, the disciples said, we need to get these people out of here, because they're going to start dropping on us.
Mm.
Basically, it's a desolate place. That's how I read it. And he says, you feed them. And then there's the miracle, right? How are we going to do that? We only have so many loaves, so many fishes. And there's the miracle. And Okay. This wouldn't come to me until after the class was over. Okay? But I'm gonna give the punchline before the joke.
Yeah.
The desolation, the miracles, the extraordinary things begin to happen when you're in the desolate place,
Right.
when you're
Yeah.
spent.
Right.
And I'm spent
Okay.
on this subject with regard to my mom. So, set up for what happened next, actually in the class. Okay, we come to a close, and I just, at some point, I just blurt out, basically tell everybody and really give a short version of what I just said to you about the Lord is, we're really struggling with my mom. The Lord, I feel like the Lord is leading me to say I should pray for her in this fashion. Pray for her as a small child. Pray for her as a little girl. And somebody in the room, this was right before we're going to close for prayer. And the guy who leads the class said, well, what's her name? No, before that, somebody picked up on it. Because I just said, well, that's where I'm at right now. That's where I'm struggling, but that's where I'm at. And somebody in the room picked up on it. Another guy that I don't really know very well said, can we pray for his mom?
Cool.
Let's pray for this little girl. He said he picked right up on it, which I did not expect. And okay, and the class leader said, yeah, okay, good. What's her name? There's not a lot of faith in the room, but there's enough, right? Maybe there's just, but the guy who leads, okay, and he says, well, Mary, okay, Mary, we're going to pray for Mary. Okay, and then he said, turns to Indonesian man who is in our church, in our class, a wonderful, wonderful man, probably unbelievable character. And when he prays, you feel it. The Holy Spirit's on him when he prays. And you know what I mean, Ron. You can just tell. I don't know if everybody could read it that way, but it's just definitely get that vibe. And he did. He prayed the prayer. And there was a church potluck after. I'm still spent. He prays. He does exactly. He prays for my mom. The whole class prays. There's probably 10 people in the room at this point. A little fewer, maybe. I don't know, something like that. And so it's a nice little group. And so we break up, go to church, do the church, end of church. I'm still just dragging. So there was a church potluck. So I said, now here's what I brought. Take it, do what you want with it. And I just gotta go. I threw my wife under the bus. I said, my wife needs me. So I just said, I gotta go. Gotta be with,
Oh, you lied in
with
church?
my wife. I know. Well, I lied, or I just didn't quite tell the complete truth. I just said I wasn't fully truthful. I should, if I wasn't honest about my state of my state of mind.
No,
I didn't want to. What are you going to say to the people? I don't want to be around you guys right now. I got to go.
I'm having a meltdown. I don't need you. I got to buy. Yeah, no, you did. Yeah, I got you.
I'm an asshole.
I'll pick up my phone. Huh?
No, I can be a real. I guess I'm just not. Like I said, not a lot of faith. Not a lot of faith. Not a lot of faith. Not a lot of feels. It's all bad. It's all bad. So
You're in the desert.
I'm in the desert. So, okay. Next morning. Okay. Monday morning. Wake up. Standard routine. Standard routine is always get out of the house by 9. So nine. If I'm cutting it close, 9:10. But try to get out by 9 to get my mom out to go to do exercises and whatnot. I show up. She's happy. She's really happy. She's in the lightest mood I've seen her in months. Just light, not healed. It's not.
Yeah.
It's like it's like it's a person. We didn't have a regrowing limb here. She is not growing new, but she's light. She's lighter. She's visibly just in a better state of mind. Could see it. And I'm like going, well, that's interesting. Right off the bat, I could tell. So we get together. Oh, and everything's falling apart at the facility, at the memory care. They just nothing's working right. The person leading the activities director was late getting things going. When they finally get things going, it's chaos. The residents, another person and another woman, and kind of feeling insecure and not, you know, she was trying to cling on to my mom, and I'm like going, oh, we can't. It's not. It's the, you can't. We can't have the blind lead the blind here. It's just
Yes.
relax. We're going to take care of you. And I had, but my mom took everything. She on a typical day in the last 6 months, any one of these things could send her off, and we'd spiral. Took everything. Oh, no problem. We'll just do this. We'll do that. Okay. Well, we're going to walk instead of do exercises, Mom. So we go and we walk. And then we just got through the morning in this unbelievably easy way. It was just nice. We had a nice time together. She's happy. We get her. Just I can't. If you're not if you're not there to see what the routines are like, it will none of this will make sense. But it's just normal caregiving, getting her around and doing. But it's just everything was just so relaxed for her and so easy, and she's in a good frame of mind, and she's enjoying this book that we got her. It's got little short stories and big letters, and she talks about it. It reminds her of the days when we used to go up to my grandma's house up in the mountains, and it was just good times, and it was just so relaxed. It felt like a miracle. It was like the multiplying of the fish and the loaves. I felt fed, she felt fed. We're all kind of like just chilling.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's good. Next day, things are still good. This is Tuesday. Not as good as yesterday.
Mm.
Not quite so obviously like a glow, but good. Good. Just, it was an answer to prayer. It was an answer to prayer in a way that I didn't know I could even pray. And I didn't even really, and I kept trying to pray to prayer. The Indonesian man I told you about who prayed in the Sunday school, when he prays like this.
Oh, nice.
And he just, it comes from deep inside, and he carried the load for me, bear one another's burdens. He carried the load. And that's when it's just, all of this on Monday yesterday is when it came to me. That's we start to catch these things happen for us when we're in the desolate place.
Mm.
So that's my report on that's the follow up on the time traveling prayers. We prayed for the little girl, and it seemed like the little girl and the woman and the woman benefited, visibly benefited.
Right. That's cool.
And Chris Howard mentions I was praying for your situation on Saturday. Lots of people were sending notes to me. So it was just it was, sometimes you need people to help carry you along, and I was in that place. Only faith I had was to kind of put it out there, and I was to a point, it's just like, wondering if I'm in the wrong business, trying to do this, and yet, after I did the live stream, I'm like going, oh, what a mistake, and I feel like I just keep making mistake upon mistake, and so.
So how do you feel? What was it? What was the trend? Was there a moment of transition for you from the emotion, or you're getting tubed? You're trying to surf a wave, and you got tubed, and you're getting tubed. So you're getting churned. So how did you get? How'd you pop out?
When the realization came, I had a pounding headache all day Sunday.
Yeah.
And I went with I once after church I made my escape, and I went and just my wife on Sunday mornings. It's every day. My mom sees somebody from my household.
Oh wow.
6 days a week, it's me. On the seventh day, it's typically on Sundays. My wife will fill in, and sometimes if I have to, it'll be Sunday afternoons for me. But she will fill in for me on Sunday mornings because she doesn't have any interest right now in church for lots of reasons
Okay.
that are perfectly valid. And so she said, she's doing okay. She was doing okay. I said, that's good. I didn't see it for myself. She said she was doing really good. I said, okay, that's good. And so we do lunch, and I struggled through Sunday. I got relief when it struck me after I saw my mom, and I saw that she was just visibly lighter. That I realized that I felt like when I realized that a prayer had been answered, that whatever was going on, something clicked, and I was, do I dare say, a prayer was answered? Again, more doubt, more fear, more anxiety, whatever that is. But I felt lighter, and I felt like, oh, and then the scripture with the whole that phrase, we're in a desolate place. They're in the desert. That whole passage, that struck me, and I went, that hit, and I went, oh, okay. That's when I stopped feeling tubed, and the headache released, and I was like going, so I feel like, oh, so that's how this works. And then I felt better. But then it's like, oh, so then I got to keep going. So is this what you do? Is this what you have to do?
What do you mean by that? I think I know what you mean, but I want to tease that out of touch.
Yeah. And I went through a whole thought process. Do I chase after the desolate places then? And then it's like, oh, then I got another scripture. I have this. We'll just say it's my brain, but just so that nobody freaks out. But I feel like the Lord disciples me this way, that I'll get a scripture verse will resonate, and then to kind of add clarity or increase focus, in a sense, to focus the dial on and the message. I'll get another one come in from the side, and I'll say, well then, okay, do I go chasing after these? Do I chase after these desolate places? No, because then it's like the scripture that came to mind was Jesus being tempted by Satan in the desert. Do this. Throw yourself off a roof and let the Lord really show you what he can do. Don't do that either. Right? It's just like, I guess you could say the Lord saying, forgive my charismania, people.
No, dude, it's full on. No.
We're giving them the full. We're giving them the full
dude,
vineyard.
It's about to fly.
Okay, we're giving you the full vineyard vibe. It's the Lord saying, no, just follow me wherever I go.
Okay.
So if you end up in the desert, great. If you end up at a party, great. If you end up just doing your normal routine, getting water from a well, fine. Hanging out with whatever it is.
Right.
It's like this little church I go to. It's like my wife is like going, when are you just going to quit? It's horrible. She's like, it's because you're just, because she could tell I was unhappy, and so I think she was interpreting that as me being just unhappy with church. Okay. And I'm like going, I'm there because I feel like the Lord wants me to be there. That's the only reason I'm there. I'm there to support my cousin and her husband. Support the people who are there. I love the people who are there, even though it's a small
Yeah.
group, and I see no future. I see no. I mean, and it's, but yet you're here. This is where you're supposed to be. Hey, Marquez, greetings and salutations. Are you with
Yeah,
us?
you too. Yeah.
I don't know if you caught the beginning, but this is where we're at. Me
I
confessing.
I caught your story there.
Okay, good. So at least you're not.
Yeah.
It'll make some sense.
Great stuff.
Okay, I'm glad you think so. Ron is good with me, so Mark is good with me. That's good, and it's. I
I'm
feel
not
like
the
I'm
ba-
confessing.
I'm
I'm
not
spilling my guts here, so I will shut up now and let you guys
Yeah.
respond. Go ahead, Mark.
um well, I got so much I could say. I don't want to talk too much because it's your thing, but
No, no, no. Go
yeah,
ahead. Go ahead. Say it.
I'll just one thing that came to mind is that, you know, when I talked to you a while back when I was like trying to come out of the depths of Hades myself, I, you know, I was talking about how I'm kind of like looking for a church, and it's been tough. And man, there's this one that I've been going to, and I think it's going to work. I've just had some. It's like they're a very liberal COC, you know,
Hmm.
but they're still probably good enough to where my family will somewhat like tolerate it. But if they don't, I don't care because I got my limits. But there, we were in service and they were doing the communion, and this guy, this really old guy, got up and he just starts like walking around lost, and you could tell he was really doing bad, you know. And like right there in the service, they just stopped the service and just started praying for him, you know.
Wow.
And I just never had witnessed anything like that in a service before. And I've been
Cool.
going there, and yeah, and it's it's been really good. It's you know
Nice.
yeah, and it's still I'm still going through it, but it's like yeah, it's just like you go into you get sometimes you got to go to the desolate place, and that's where the miracles are, you know. So anyway, yeah,
That's the message
thought
I
I'd share it.
got, man. I'm just I feel I wish I had Paul or PVK around to bounce this off of. I'm gonna run it by my pastor and cousin, his wife, tomorrow. I'm gonna throw this out. We got prayer reading tomorrow, and so I'm gonna give this is my rehearsal report. See
You're
what
having a prayer
happens.
reading at your church.
Yeah, at my church, local church. Yeah, I th- I think overall it'll have a really good effect. I mean it might boost everybody's faith
Hmm.
to hear it
Yeah.
because I we've been meeting for a while
Yeah.
and we kind of we do a kind of a routine where we sing some worship songs at the beginning, then we do one large group prayer that lasts a few minutes, and then we break up into twos or threes and then pray in small groups, and have been doing that for, on a routine basis for quite a while, for the last few months. And this I think there's a lot of feeling because it is an elderly group.
Yeah, that vineyard stuff is pretty interesting. Um, and like I've because when I was a kid, this kid that lived down the street from me, his mom was a Pentecostal, and I went to services with him, and it was like really out there speaking in tongues, and for me, coming from where I came from, it was just insane. But I found that there's like this other kind of middle ground, more charismatic thing
Right.
where like Calvary Chapel, I think, is kind of like that,
Mm-hmm.
where it's you know they still believe in the Spirit acting and everything, but it's not so. I don't know. It seems like it's not the Pentecostalism that I used to see,
Oh,
which I really like that. You know, I feel like if I wasn't going to the church I'm going to, I would find something like that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
because they have so much emphasis on prayer and getting more emotional. Some churches you go and it's like if you tap your hand on the pew while you're singing, they'll like look at you askance.
Yeah. Well, in the past, that's the funny thing is the Church of Christ. This church, when my uncle had it, was vehemently non-tongue speaking, and we don't. There's no visible tongues going on, but it came out on Sunday of all things. It was hysterical. The guy who led the prayer for my mom at the end, he mentioned Pentecostals came up, and somebody said something negative about what a bum supposedly, I'm going to say allegedly, Benny Hinn is, and it's a big show, and that it's all, and well, the guy who led the prayer mentioned, he said, well, his wife had a kind of spiritual revival at a Benny Hinn meeting.
Huh.
What are you gonna do? And the thing
Right.
is just it just emphasizes more and more that I think it's for me it's just the Lord is moving. The Lord's wholly present for all of us as individuals, and we've got all of God, and He's working in all of us to the max. I mean, we're all getting worked on wherever you are in the world. There is no living, breathing human being that the Lord has not got His eye on.
Isn't it funny how some people believe that God is actually only thinking about like this small group of people?
Yeah,
You know? It's like he doesn't even care about the rest of them. And the only way that the rest of them are ever going to get heard by God is if they go through these people.
right. It's just weird, isn't it? Go ahead, Ron. Ron, we've been talking a lot. Go
Oh
ahead,
no,
King.
dude, I was gonna say, and for a reasonable price, if you would like to contact God, contact Ron Copperman for $20, Bitcoin accepted. But
Where do I submit my money?
yeah, anyhow, if Grim was here, we would have this all worked out with the branding and whatnot. But I was gonna, because I have my own opinion. First off, I'm like, dude, I am, prayer answered.
Right.
I love that. How does this help you? I'm trying to, like, I can give you my opinion on what I think happened and how and why, or at least the outline of how things work, because I've been around healings aplenty. But that doesn't matter. My question is, how has this helped you? Like, dude, something good happened, and I'm like, how has this helped you, or what you thinking, how you feeling? Dude, this is a good day for you.
Mm-hmm.
What? Anything you want to share with the class, or is this, if it's internal and personal, and you're still enjoying it?
I want to just try to put words to it. Yeah, like I said, I feel lighter. I feel like the
Cool.
fever broke. That's the way to put it. When
Oh,
you
dude.
feel really sick and the fever breaks, you still feel kind of funky. It's like
You just got done being sick.
I need a shower, type of thing. A little achy in places, a little fatigued. Could sleep a little longer, but the fever's broken.
Yeah.
I could use. I'm ready for some solid food.
Cool. And I don't want to. I hate asking direct questions like that.
No, do it. Go.
Let me check my own heart. Because this isn't about me. This is about you. Well,
I think it's about us. We can make it about us.
Okay, dude, you've had an answer to prayer. And it seems like it's landed on you in a good way. And I don't want to dissect stuff. All right, I'm going to just throw it out there. You don't have to be in a dry place or a desert to get a miracle. It is faith that works through love, always. Now, it seems that when you're in the desert and you got no plan B and all you got is Jesus, you're like, hey, Jesus, I got no plan B. Can you help a brother out in Jesus' name? And then he goes, yeah, okay, I got you. But until that moment he responds to it, you are walking on water. And that's faith. And then you see it show up. That's the answer to the faith. To be very direct, it is whether you believe it or not, if you pray in faith, if you have love, I'm sorry. If you have no love, you can still do miracles. Miracles are not a sign of what your character is. It's just a matter of your faith and your understanding of faith and how to do the machinery. But when you have faith that works through love, it is our compassion within us being motivated that we lift our eyes towards God and say, listen, I can't do this. You can. Please do this. And he goes, okay. And then when he does fulfill it, you're like, wow, that was cool. And you feel better. So there's duress when you have no other choice that it will motivate you. There are times when you have experience, like I have experience, and I've seen a lot of miracles, and it's not because it's who I'm good or anything. It's he's good. I've learned to call on him. And the reason is I do it so much is because one, I don't like the pain that other people are in. And I have had pain removed out of my life through other people's prayers. So who am I not to help other people all the time when it's free and it's fun? I'll be honest, it's a blast. There are other times when the prayers of the saints, because you had other people praying for you, they're lowering your mom down to Jesus, so to speak.
Right. Well, we had
And
lots of people. We had some people online that I was reminded about that were praying, and then there was the situation locally in my church. Yeah, the faith part. My faith was when we talk about mustard seed faith. It was pretty minimal.
but it moved a mountain.
We
It's
had a moment. Yeah, yeah,
it,
yeah.
it's it's about trying. It's if it really comes down, it's about risking that this is a lie and a waste of time, and then you put yourself out and you go, God, I'm now going to trust you to do this, and then you see him show up. So I guess my question is, has this changed your faith at all or increased it, or like what's like this was a
Yeah,
pretty
no, I think it's well, I want to PBK brought out a video. I watched an old video of PBK's actually. It was Why I Am Still a Christian, I think was the title of it.
mm,
And it's very old. It's like 5 years old or something like that, I think. And I'm like thinking, I think I would make similar video, only say why I'm a Christian, why, I'm, I'm still a Christian. This will have to play a part in it. I mean, it's not, um, well, that the desolate place business.
mm,
You know how every once in a while you get these "this is your life" moments, kind of a series of
oh,
flashbacks where you go this and this,
okay.
and I had one of those moments, and I felt like it was the Lord saying, when I had that whole realization about that scripture of that these people followed him. These were faithful people that followed him out into the desert, and who were fed by that miracle, and it's most of my little revelations over the years, my personal experiences with the Lord have been in these moments
No.
when I'm spent. I can't think
Mm.
of a single one where I've had big revelations.
When you're happy.
Yeah. Can you? I don't know.
Just to, hey, God, if you're out there, listen, just hit us up when we're in the happy spot. But no, I got you. Yeah, you.
You know,
No, I hear you.
You know,
Mark,
I have known a couple people in my life that were just always so positive and like, you know, they seemed always to be happy that they seemed like they didn't even need a miracle because they, you know what I mean? Like they
right,
were always just kind of, it's a miracle that somebody could even be like that. Uh,
right.
but yeah, because I can relate with, yeah, my biggest miracles came when I was out in the desert too.
yeah, yeah. I don't.
And then things get a little bit better and I just sink back into it.
My question,
Right.
Mark, for you was, and I'm sorry, Mark asked. I'm sorry. I don't want. How is this? You were getting tubed. How after this experience? How is it might help you navigate next time another wave tries to crash on you? If that's kind of a
Yeah,
question.
these things are like a force of nature. I don't know if I can anticipate it quite so much. I
No,
don't know if
not so
there's
much
any
anticipated, but just to
or
surf it better,
learn how
or
to do better next time. I think it's going to, I suppose, maybe ritualize it to some degree. You just certain things you always do because that's to make my prayer routine more of a routine. I've never
yeah,
been
yeah,
much for that sort of following a strict routine on the clock. You
right.
know,
Instead,
I have tried it. I mean, I've tried. I've tried to get up at 5. I did it.
right.
The the and you get up really early and go and you pray and it doesn't seem to make.
It's not your
I've
jam.
never had anything happen out of it, come out of it. I mean,
No,
it's if anything,
no.
it may it. Hmm. Back to your question, what would be a good defense? This is where I need someone like Neil to come in. He's
Well,
usually got good advice.
it wasn't so much for a defense. Not, that wasn't it at all. When you now have
Or cope.
experience,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like now that you, what I'm looking for is what you might have got out of it, like a new understanding, tax. I mean, just because you don't have a theory and you don't have faith anymore. You have facts. Like you went from
Well,
faith.
there's always room for doubt. I mean,
No, no,
there's always room
yeah.
to say, "Oh, something else happened," or yeah. I mean,
Aside from that, no, I'm not. I'm not even gonna. I'll be honest.
I
No.
have grounds for yes. I understand what you're saying though. Yeah.
Okay.
But I
I'll
think
give you an
William
example.
points out, is your faith transactional? That isn't faith.
No, it's not transactional, but it is experiential. When I experienced the healing myself,
Mm-hmm.
I was uncurable in some things. I was a burnout. Dude, I fried my mind on hallucinogenics. I couldn't hold a thought in a bucket. I
Mm-hmm.
got prayer and it was like lightning and love. That it's not transactional. I'm like, oh, it's that's experiential. And so whether it's a big miracle or I don't want to say that there's big and little miracles because all miracles are all answered prayers are subjective. What I consider maybe a small prayer answered might be like atomic to someone else. But then what you do is you learn from it. And what am I asking and why? You were bummed out last time we talked, and now you ain't. So how has this helped, and how might it help in the future? That's my question. If there's anything
Which
to it.
I don't have an answer. I don't.
And that's reasonable, but it's
Um,
just
I really don't. I
okay.
think um, it's just one more. It's one more arrow in the quiver. It's one more
Yeah. Okay.
aware. I've one more experience of this is so this is how God works. Okay. I was like I'm building up over my 60 years of life, building up a kind of catalog of experiences.
Oh, that's okay. I
And
like that. Yeah.
okay. And that this is another one that says so
Yeah.
it's saying it's a curriculum. Maybe it's like
Hmm.
here's the curriculum. This is you just completed a class or you just here's a test or whatever you want to call it. We did a pop quiz and oh you passed. Okay. Whatever you want, however you want, whatever metaphor you want. But this
Yeah.
is we're just a little bit stronger maybe.
Yeah.
A
No,
little
I
bit
like
more
that.
prepared,
It,
a little bit I know more than I did, but
yeah. Okay. That's cool. I like that quite a bit.
okay.
That's exactly what I was looking for. I like that a lot.
I've not been reading too many of the comments. We don't have too many, but William's
I
been
was reading
active.
William.
Yeah, not easy. Yeah, and that's the funny thing too is yeah, for me most of my prayer was kind of more meditative because I didn't have a lot of words.
Oh, it reminds me. I got a book for you. You might really like. Maybe I can look it
Okay,
up.
sure.
It's called "Practicing the Presence of God" by Brother Lawrence.
Okay, I
Uh,
think I've heard of it actually.
oh, dude, Presence of God. It's a free. It's online. It's a free PDF. I'm looking. Well, I tell you, let me do this, and I hope I don't blow up the universe right now. We'll see. So I don't know how to share screens, but so anyhow,
Oh, let me.
PDF.
Hey guys, I'm gonna get going. It was good talking to both of you.
Oh, Mark, thank you. Appreciate
Smart.
So,
it. Good
thank
talking
you.
to you. Thanks for always
Absolutely.
checking in. Welcome
Yep. Talk to
anytime.
you later.
Thank you.
God bless
See
you.
ya.
God bless. Bye.
So if you can look it up, I don't know how to share it on the screen.
Let's see. It's practicing the presence.
Of God by Brother Lawrence. It's really one of my favorite books, and it goes back to prayer in relationship with God. And in a nutshell, he just goes, I pray all the time. And if I forget, I get over it. And it's not so much like, now I lay me down to sleep, a bag of peanuts at my feet. If I die before I wake, give them to my brother Jake, and then repeating it. Nothing wrong with prayers like that, but it's more of he just has a conversation with God throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
And then no matter whether he's washing the dishes or cooking, he does that, and he never judges himself as not doing well. He just continues it, and enjoys it. And over time, what it is when they talk about praying without ceasing, there's a contact between our heart and God's heart that
Mm-hmm.
develops. And it's like when you ride a bike downhill, and it's really effortless. it can develop. It develops. And so as far as prayer goes, like I like certain times of prayer, but that's just me. If you don't, and you just like to pray on the fly, all right. God doesn't have a time clock. Just kind of punch in when you can, as much as you feel you can do, and then practice that. It's almost like walking meditation.
Right. I see it. Let's see. It's the practice that EPUB read online web. Let's look at that one. Here it is. Yeah, you can buy it or you can download it. It's probably available. It's probably been LibriVox has probably
it's on
performed
YouTube.
It on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the most for me one of the most enjoyable books. You can draw. It's 16 separate letters to a lady who was dying back. I think he lived in the 13th century or something. A long time ago.
Yeah, it's I think I read 16th.
Oh, okay.
Could be that far back.
It's a while ago. So he wrote her some letters.
The Practice of the Presence of God by Brother Lawrence.
Give it a. You can.
Yeah,
dip
I will.
in
I'll check it out. It sounds familiar. But I don't. It's probably one of those things that I wanted to read and never did.
Mm-hmm.
But yep. So that's the report.
No, that's cool.
Anybody else wants to come in and talk? The funny thing is maybe I suppose we're so oriented here in the corner about
you need to post the link.
Oh, let's see. Post the link. It should be pinned. Is it? The link should be pinned. It's pinned in the yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No, it's yeah. Yep, right at top. But thank you, Ron, for joining me at the very least, and for enduring my story.
No, that's cool. I'm glad. I understand when you're getting tubed. Getting tubed is not fun.
Well, hopefully, maybe this will encourage everybody else. I hope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I hope.
It's a testimony.
There you go. It's just a testimony. I want to share something I was looking at too. I've got a little more time. Any other thoughts? What's or about anything at all?
Well, actually, well, all right, this is interesting. As much as you've had a breakthrough, I was getting tubed a little bit. I had falling out with the church a while ago, and I was been processing it. And I think you'll understand this. I'm in a non-prayer mode, picking up chocolate chip cookies and milk at the Family Dollar, and I'm walking in, and God speaks to my heart clearly in a way I haven't felt in a long time. And it's feeling good. It says one word, and it was gratitude. And the moment I felt that and thought that, I'm like, oh, that's the way I get out of my funk. Because I didn't know how to process what had happened between me and the church I'd been at. And I'm like, okay, it may never get resolved, and that's okay. Have gratitude cultivate a heart of gratitude now, no matter what, whether it's good or bad. in the, you know what I mean, in your world. You know, the world's going to hell. Okay, still I got a heartbeat going on. I'm breathing, and to be thankful for it and to really enjoy it and realize it helps me realize how good life is. And it just, what Sherry say?
Sherry said, just a testimony. It's, I need to put on my glasses.
Yeah.
My glasses and the screen don't work well. It is the lives of the saints. There is no Christian life without hearing about lived experience.
Cool. I
Thank you,
agree.
Sherry.
Yeah. Just a testimony. Yeah.
Andrew's a stinker. Prayers can time travel, but like we've been post-destined not to know.
Post-destined not to know. Yeah. Gratitude. It felt so good when he talked to me about it. It was just like a change of perspective and attitude. Like I didn't know how to get out of this churn I was in with this other church. And I think I've forgiven him and all that. And it's just the moment gratitude came into my heart, it's like, it doesn't matter. Maybe it never gets resolved. That's okay. It's okay. I have a good life right now. It's like letting it go is the best. For me, that's what it is. Gratitude is looking at the here and now and enjoying that. Makes a difference for me. It's made a difference.
Well, that's the weird thing about this. You know, if you're open to it, and you can, if for this idea of that the Holy Spirit disciples us, you can have these moments that the Lord is speaking to you, and that it's okay. I mean, if you have a theology that says that can't happen, or if that's somehow illegitimate,
I would still be a pot smoking burnout.
Right.
What's that?
Well, no, it's gonna be pretty rough. You got a little lag. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Oh, here, Sherry added some more here. Jen and I talked about God's withdrawal in our last conversation. You want to come on, Sherry, and share?
Yeah,
because I started it. I need to get back to that one. I started that one and got about a third
Sherry,
through.
I would like to hear about that. God's withdrawal. That would be a desert place.
Yes, you can go both ways. You know, I've had it go both ways.
Okay,
and then you're just. The best advice then is, I suppose, the best advice is not to leave the path. But the funny thing is even when you do leave the path, the Lord's with you.
Right. Yeah.
That's been my experience. You wake up and go, "Oh, you've not left."
Right. I'm glad you're feeling better, dude.
Me too. Well, it's. I wish it was a really great feeling. I mean, I don't. Like I said, I just feel. I feel that's that feeling after the best metaphor is after a fever breaks. It's just like,
yeah.
Okay. What's next? What's next?
Sherry's hopping on.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah. This ought to be interesting. I like the perspectives here. There's a lot of experience.
I try to keep up with your comments, William.
Yeah. Oh, I'm still I was praying I'm not Catholic. I was praying at a Catholic church. There was a falling out between me and some of, not the priests, but the administrators. And anyhow, it didn't get handled that great. So we're not dating anymore.
So the church you're at, how long have you been at this church?
24 years.
So this is an old resentment.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So I'll go, this is the church, the Catholic church, and they're cool people. I'm not putting them down. I was praying there because they're next to my campus where I work. And so it was a convenient place to pray. I'm Protestant and I go to another church, but over the years I developed a friendship and a rapport with a lot of the priests and congregation at the Catholic Church. And then there was just some fussiness between me and some of the lower staff about me being there. And it just didn't get handled well. So, but instead of me really raising a fuss and like, okay, let's go, let's have this out, I'm like, I ain't gonna cause a fight in a church. So I split.
Oops.
Right. Hey, welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
I missed the first 38 minutes, so
Oh,
and I
well-
didn't watch your first one either. I never got to it. So
right. Can I recap this quickly? Basically, I had this.
Something there.
Let's see, Ron. I'll say it, try to say it briefly.
Yeah.
Okay. My my mom was struggling with we're having lots of difficulty with her dementia, and it was one bad day after another. She wasn't coping well, and we're trying everything with the doctors to titrating medication and working with her and redirecting and helping her manage the problems. Her situation, it's mixed dementia. It's a combination of Alzheimer's and vascular dementia, and it produces all kinds of it can produce all kinds of things, from full-blown hallucinations to what more common are confabulations, where she gets mixed up. She'll mix up
yeah.
past memories and traumas with current events and experiences in the moment. A lot of confusion, a lot of disorientation, of course, memory loss. Then there's panic over the memory loss when she realizes she's having a memory loss, and
Yeah.
we've been in a bad space. That's okay, McMo. Sorry. I love to talk to you more about this, though. Anyway, Sherry, to continue the story, I was at the end of my rope a few days ago, Saturday. So I posted. But I had this impression that I should pray for my mom as a little girl. The word I got in Charismania terms, the word I got was pray for her as a little girl. Just pray for the little girl, because I know her history. Her dad was murdered when she was like 11. Her mom remarried very quickly, and her stepfather nearly beat her mom to death and was very violent to the family. He ultimately left the scene via law enforcement. Okay. Irish Catholic family. Her mother was orphaned at 14 and took care of her siblings from her age 14 on. So there's a lot of alcohol, a lot of poverty, going way multi-generational traumas. And the word I got was pray for the little girl. But I'm not feeling it. In Ron's terms, I'm like, Ron says, you're getting tubed. I'm underwater, but I'm just like, but I felt enough faith to like say, I'm going to throw this out here in this live stream, and I'm going to say it to the corner, and talk about this subject. And Ron joined in and helped me out with the first video. That's the first video.
Yeah.
And then
Jeremy,
go ahead.
Well, Jeremy actually talked about this one time. I think it was a live stream, just like a random live stream or something. He was talking about praying for himself as a boy, praying for his past self, and I mean, I've thought about past and future selves in the context of like guardian angels and stuff like that, but I'd never actually thought about it like that before. And he went into I don't remember where it was, or I would clip it and send it to you, Mark. But you might even want to talk to Jeremy about that.
Well, it's interesting that somebody else even had the thought. Because to me,
Well,
it's like I was looking online. I'm looking all over
I
the
think
place to
it's
try to get
actually, I
something.
think it's actually contained within Orthodox theology, and that's why he had the thought. Like
Right.
it's in the mystical, aspects of Orthodox theology, right? Like one of the things, and I don't want to speak for Jeremy, but one of the things that he said once was he always longed for a mystical form of Christianity, and he never knew that he thought it was gone until he got into the Orthodox Church. So I think I'm just going to assume that Jeremy is, has made that a priority, is learning the mystical theology of the Church, right?
Mhm.
Because they're, like everybody else, like all of us, whether we're Orthodox, Protestant, or Catholic, we kind of just superficially skate on the top of the waters, and we don't necessarily get down below the surface very often, kind of thing. And yeah, so I just thought I'd let you know that. And then when I was talking in here about withdrawal, because we get a sense sometimes that God is absent, right? Probably in times like you're describing. It's like, where are you? And Meister Eckhart talks about that in that third sermon that Jed and I talked about last Thursday, I think it was. And I can just read you a little bit of that part where he mentions it. I just have to find it in my thing here. Oops. Okay, I gotta find the third sermon. Hang on. This is
Sure.
Sermon 2. All right. So he talks. First of all, he talks about the largeness of God, and how we can't necessarily handle all of God at once, right? He's talking about that. He talks about potential intellect, which is, we came to the conclusion that it's very much like the imagination, in the same vein as George MacDonald. And then I just got to find it here. Where's that? Oh, here. Let me just read. Sorry for the dead air.
It's all right.
Sure.
He talks about it in okay, I'll just read a little bit. Make sure that I haven't, okay, it's right at the beginning here. A question arises about this birth. So he's talking about the birth of Christ in the ground of the soul, which is the virginal space. And I was re-listening to our conversation. Actually, I went into town today, and on my way home, I was listening to it again. And it suddenly dawned on me, because Jed said something about Christ being, we're already seated with Christ on the throne, right? Like, we're already there.
Right.
So there's a little time travel thing happening.
Right.
But then what I was reminded of was the Panagia, which is a huge icon of Mary over the altar, and Christ is seated in her lap, right?
Mm-hmm.
and what it's talking about is her as the throne. And what Meister Eckhart's talking about in this sermon is that the throne, or the ground of the soul, is that virginal space where Christ is born. Okay?
Okay.
Which is what that icon is representing perfectly. Right? She's a virgin, and he's seated on the throne, right? In the virginal space. So he says, where did I read anything yet?
No, not yet.
Yeah, I haven't read anything.
I think you started like one phrase or
Oh,
sentence.
my mind is just kind of going all over the place. So,
That's
yeah.
okay.
So Jesus says, Meister Eckhart says, this enduring, if you're in a state of constant contemplation, he says, this enduring and vision of God places an intolerable strain on the mind while in this body, right? So if you were in some kind of like mystical space all the time, you couldn't physically tolerate it. God accordingly withdraws at times from the mind, and that is why he said, a little while you shall see me, and again, a little while you shall not see me. John 16:16. And I love the way Eckhart illuminates some of this scripture for me, anyway. So I'm just going to read from here. When our Lord took his 3 disciples with him up the mountain and had shown them, I just want to make sure I'm in 3. Okay. Shown them privately the illumination of his body, which he had through union with the Godhead, and which we too shall have at the resurrection of the body. St. Peter at once, on seeing it, wished to remain there always. Indeed, when a man finds the good, he cannot easily part from it insofar as it is good. Where this is recognized by knowledge, love must follow, and memory, and all the powers of the soul. And our Lord, well knowing this, is constrained to hide at times, for the soul is a simple form of the body. And wherever she turns as a whole. Were she always conscious of the good, which is God, immediately and without interruption, she would never be able to leave it to influence the body. And then he talks about St. Paul, when he had his vision, his Damascus moment. He says, Paul would have never returned to the body. He would have forgotten it completely, because it would have, this beatific vision would have just held him forever. And it's interesting because when I read that in Meister Eckhart's sermon, I was thinking of Aldous Huxley's Doors of Perception, because he's talking about mescaline trips. And there's such a feeling of oneness with everything that people who are on mescaline for extended periods of time, they could die if they stayed on it, because they just don't eat, right? Like they're just completely satisfied. This is in Eckhart's.
Well, you actually have people in India who just vacate through yoga and then they never come back.
Yeah. And they mummify.
People feed them and take care of them, like they're invalids, and then they do die. And then of course you have some of those monks, the Tibetan monks. Those are the ones that I know of that kind of just dry up in place. I don't quite get it, but okay, it's pretty far out. But yeah.
So I wanted to find this. Let me just see if I can find this specific spot about withdrawal.
Did you have a question for Sherry?
No, withdrawal. I just tuned them back in to what's going to be talking about.
Yeah. I want to stay on track here because I could talk about this sermon over and over again. Oh, geez, I thought it'd be easy to find, and I'm having a really hard time.
Well, let me throw something at you, Sherry, because I don't know if you missed the first 35 minutes or so.
Yeah.
You probably didn't hear what happened. Did you hear the part about the day after I told this story? I told this idea. I expressed myself on the video to the corner. I did my live stream on Saturday. On Sunday was church, and I went to church in the morning and had the adult Bible study, and um, uh, in the course of things, uh, I I blurted out in short what was, because I was having a bad day. It was not a good day. I was not happy. It took everything just to go to church. I got there. I stayed long enough to make it through the service, and I left. But in the Sunday school, in the adult Sunday school, I just, we were at the end of the class, and we were going through the miracles of math listed in Matthew, and I just said, well, this is where I'm at, and I said, Lord wants me to pray for my mom as a little girl. Pray for the little girl. However I expressed it in short. And a guy I really don't know very well, but he picked up on it and said, before, just as they were going to close in prayer, he stopped the guy who's leading the class and said, well, can we pray for his mom as a little girl? Pray for the little girl. He tuned in.
Yeah, he heard you.
And he caught it. And he said it better than I said it. And the guy in charge says, well, what's your mom's name? Mary. Okay. He said, Mary. We'll pray for Mary. And he turned, and another guy who was leading prayer is this Indonesian man who is, when he prays, he prays. He prays like this. And he's got it, but you can, and I was telling Ron, he's the kind of guy you want to pray. He pray. You feel the faith. I've prayed with him several times, and you get whatever he does. He's got the gift. So, and I had nothing. I mean, I'm spent. I'm pretty empty, but I'm there. So he prayed, and I didn't feel anything happen at the moment, but it's all good. Like I told Ron, I kind of just indelicately just said, I gotta go. I left.
Yeah.
And at the end of church, I didn't stick around for the potluck. And Ron laughed and said, you kind of lied. I said, I kind of lied when I left. I said, I kind of threw my wife under the bus. My wife needs me. I gotta go. I couldn't bring it to myself to say, I can't be around you people anymore. I gotta get out of here. Which is what I felt. I just cannot stand another minute here. I've got to go.
Yeah, I get that.
You ever have those feelings, those moments?
Oh, way too many times.
So I go. My wife takes care of my mom in the mornings. She's the one who does what I normally do the rest of the week on Sunday mornings. So I checked in with my wife. We had our day. It was good to get out, just be with my wife. But nothing's happening. I'm still feeling pretty shitty the whole day. And the next morning, though, that's my routine is Monday morning, get up, go check on mom at 9 o'clock or so. And she's aglow. She's light. She's lighter. She's feeling better. She's coping with. And it was a challenging morning in the memory care. Nothing's working right. They're not doing their job right at all. It was a bad day for them, but she's taking it like a champ. No,
Who, your mom?
My mom.
Okay.
Things that could cause her to spin off,
Right.
to make the moment worse. She's coping. She's happy. She's feeling. We had it. Whatever happened, we prayed for the little girl. There was an answer to prayer. It felt like an answer to prayer.
Nice.
And that's the other part of the story. And that's kind of what this is, kind of a follow-up to the first video. The first video was me telling what was the sense that we should pray for the little girl, and that the 82-year-old woman yesterday and today seems to be doing better. Today was not another. They weren't doing their job as well as they need to. Somebody called in sick, and they're shorthanded, so they couldn't do the activities like they normally do. So we went out, we did a nice little walk, and she's coping. And I'll take it. I mean, it's not like the disease is gone. But whatever, it felt like an answer to prayer.
Yeah. So just take it.
Yeah, take it. You take it. You just, and that's accept it, and it's.
Well, for some reason, Mark, I can't find this passage If I find it, I can email it to you or something. But
I think I'll go back and listen to the you and Jed talk. You said
yeah,
it was your
because
last one,
we
right?
talk about the withdrawal. We haven't actually finished this sermon, and so I'm looking for where we left off, and I can't even remember that. Talk about dementia. So, but oh, here it is. I just found it. Okay.
Go for it.
Okay, so remember I mentioned Paul, and if Paul would have stayed in the beatific vision, he would have never come out of it. So this is what he says. Thus it befell Paul, if he had remained for 100 years at the spot where he came to know the good, capital G, he would never have returned to the body. He would have forgotten it completely, his body. And so because that is not conducive to this life and alien to it, God, in his mercy, veils it when he will and reveals it when he will and when he knows, like a trustworthy physician, that it is most useful and helpful for you. This withdrawal is not yours, but his who does the work. He can do it or not as he will, well knowing what it avails you best. It is in his hands to reveal or conceal, according as he knows you can endure it. For God is not a destroyer of nature, human nature. Rather, he perfects it. And God does this ever more and more the more you are fitted for it. So, like one of the things that stood out to me there was this withdrawal is not yours, but his who does the work. And I think most of the time we think that if we don't have a sense of God present in our lives, that it's our fault. But it's again that analogy of teaching your kid how to ride a bike, and at some point you let go,
Right.
and they're terrified, and they're angry because you let go, right? Mm-hmm. But at some point they have to ride the bike by themselves, right, in order to master it, and then plus Meister Eckhart saying here, you also couldn't handle being in that state forever. Yeah. Like Aldous Huxley says, you might die. You might starve to death, Right. So anyway, those were, that was kind of the original thought when I mentioned withdrawal. And I think it's great because it's funny because George MacDonald talks about it too, in the sense that we're being perfected now, but to the end that one day we will be perfected in a much nobler studio after death, even for George MacDonald, right? So it's in this life and after this life that we will experience, and this is a very universal take, the withdrawal of God, right? But as George MacDonald says, God is actually not gone. He's just concealed, right? He's just backing off, because for George MacDonald, in him we live and move and have our being.
Right?
So even in hell, his hand is over us to give us our existence in hell. Without it, we wouldn't exist, right? Which is a big part of the reason why I had to reconsider the way I thought about these things. So because I'm like, yeah, I mean, outside of God, there is no existence, right? And then to make it even, to push my point home even more, in the book of Job says, I wish that I had never been born. And what's interesting about that is that he knows that to be born is to exist. There's once you're in, you're in. This is a forever game, people. It's not for a little while, right? And so in order to avoid it all the pain and suffering in Job's life, it would have been better if he had never been born, because now he's subjected. Now he's in it, right?
Right.
It wasn't a plea for suicide, because if that was the case, he could have said, okay, see, honey, I'm off the edge of the cliff now, right? And just ran for it. But he didn't. He stuck with the whole question, what is going on here? And at some point, during that contemplation, he says, I wish that I had never been born. Because he realizes that that's what it means to be born. To be born means to exist in time forever.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever? One of the things that came up when with Ron and I we were talking, Matthew 14 came to mind with all of this when I with was the passage where I don't know what you caught or didn't catch, but you may have missed this part when we were talking. But it's the lead up to the feeding of the 5,000, and it's the idea. It's a desolate place. The people who followed him, they followed him into a desolate place to the point where their lives are now at risk if they aren't sent back. Right? That's what the disciples are concerned about.
Yeah. And there's nothing more desolate than being hungry.
Right, hungry, thirsty, and there's a lot of them, right? So whatever they find, they'll just consume. There's no town, and and it's not like you could just run into a supermarket. Just imagine if the numbers were at all correct, 5,000 people, children and women, they wipe out a couple supermarkets really quick. So where are we going to find so much bread, right? That's the whole question. But it's in the desolate place where they get the miracle, right? It's you feed them, and it's as Jesus enables the disciples to feed them with the multiplying of loaves and fish. And the question I have for you is have you ever had an experience of God where it didn't begin with you being in a desolate place? Because I'm looking back in my life, I'm going, because I had a kind of this is your life moment with the Lord where it's like every minute. Every big moment in my life has always been preceded by a kind of desolate space. I've never come out of a party feeling God. It's always the hard times and the big.
Yeah. I mean, so here's an interesting. This is going to be a little bit of a roundabout thing, but I have to talk about it because it's really interesting. So, I think it's Irenaeus. It's either Saint Irenaeus or Saint Athanasius, one or the other. I always get them mixed up. But they talk about the creation, the foundation of the world, right? The lamb slain at the foundation of the world as the cross. Okay? That is the cross, which means that is the foundation of the world. That is when the world is created. And so... yeah, it's.
I like that.
Say it one more. Can you say it one more time, Sherry?
That was fun. I like that.
If the lamb is slain at the foundation of the world, and that is the cross, that means the world was created at the cross.
Is that the Big Bang?
It's a big spiritual one. Anyway.
I'm sorry. What's that?
It's a big spiritual bang.
Yeah,
But anyway, so then the point is made that John, who wrote Revelation, and who was also there at the cross with Mary, Jesus said to him, "Take care of my mother." He was one of the women and John were the only ones who stared it down, basically, as Martin Shaw said to me once. He goes, "The women, they stare it down." It was really moving to him. But John was there too. And so the point is made that when John begins his gospel, he starts with the book of Genesis. When he writes Revelation, he's also starting with Genesis. Mm-hmm. He's talking about the lamb slain at the foundation of the world, and that's his eyewitness account. He is there at the creation of the world. He's at the cross with Mary. Okay. Now, you were talking about, experiencing God outside of pain and suffering, basically, right? I think you can. I think it gets more integrated through pain and suffering over time. At least that's been my experience. But my priest said to me one time, and this is in regards to what I just said before, that is where you see the Lamb. Okay? That is where you see the Christ in the midst of suffering. That's when your eyes are opened.
Hmm.
And so it's, these moments of suffering are revelatory, right? And anything that is revelatory is life-changing. It's a moment of metanoia, aha,
Right.
eureka, all that stuff, right? If something is new is revealed to you, and that's, and this is again Orthodox mystical theology, the apocalypse is the end of one thing, the beginning of another. It's a revelation. So when you have a revelation, something dies and something new is born.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what apocalypse is. It's I don't even know if you can say it, metanoical. Transfiguring is the word, probably. And so
Well,
you know,
the old heaven
like
and
my
earth
priest said,
die, and the new heaven and earth are come out of it. Is that what you're kind of talking about?
well,
if you're talking about the apocalypse of
just
John,
keep it simple, Mark. Just keep it super simple. When you have a revelation, if something new is revealed to you by God, when you get up in the morning, do you still live in the old earth, or are you living in a new earth?
Oh, it's all the same in some. I mean, I'm not sure what.
It's the same but different,
Yeah, it's
right?
the same but different.
Which
yeah.
is what new earth equals. It's the same but different. That's what happens when you have revelation, when you experience an evolution of consciousness, when you, and of course, like, you can't have revelation if you don't face God, right? In your moment of pain and suffering, you turn to who? Like Job, the only person who can give you the answer, God. And when you face God and you align yourself with God and you receive revelation from God, you're transformed by it. You can't be the same after it. And neither will your world around you.
Right.
It'll be a new heaven and a new earth. And I'm not saying that's all this is. That's not all Scripture is talking about. But you have to remember that Scripture is fractal. Okay? So what happens inside of us is happening outside of us.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But okay, yeah. I got a few questions. And I don't know how this fits in, but the pulling away you talked about
Withdrawal.
of God,
Yeah.
you withdraw. Yeah. Can you help me understand that a little bit? Because I'm not opposed to it. I'm just trying to get my head around it better.
Well, in
You're talking about like
Judaism,
the experience of God that I have when He pulls away, or
it can be a cosmic withdrawal. It can be all kinds of withdrawals, right? Because of the fractal nature of our relationship to God and God's relationship to the cosmos, right?
Right.
So, but in Judaism, for example, they have the term tzimtzum, which is the withdrawal of God. And the idea of that is that in order for something to exist, God has to remove, he has to conceal, right? Which is what Meister Eckhart is talking about here. He has to move away and give space to let something become what it is. Because, in very simple terms, he's just too big. If let's say the stage for that becoming was a room and you put God in there, he'd fill it up. And everything would be squished up against the wall and
Right.
unable to do anything, right? Like just imagine these things in very simple terms. So God has to withdraw. Maybe he goes to the parlor and smokes a cigar or whatever.
Right.
And then you get to unfold in that space where he
Right.
isn't, right? And so what I liked about the Meister Eckhart sermon was that, and this is, what I just explained was, this is symptom in Judaism, and it's like a lot bigger than that, but if anybody, if Jacob or Joseph or Kezi listens
Right.
to this, bear with me. But what I liked about what Meister Eckhart said was that this is God's doing. His withdrawal is his doing.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do with something that you did. And so
That's
if that is the case, it's grace.
Mm-hmm.
In
And
what
that's
capacity?
why, Ron, gratitude is the key.
I'm interested. Okay, I'm listening. So, I'm getting my head around this. It's
I mean, how if something is given, grace is a given. Okay, that's the Christian word for gift. Grace
Okay.
is the Christian word for gift. So let's call it a gift.
okay.
If God's withdrawal is a gift to you, then be grateful for it.
I think my pushback, and I'm not in my own knee-jerk reaction, not, and that I'm working against, because I'm teasing apart. I was thinking oppression when something is pulled away. That's just where I'm coming from. That's just, but to pull away, I could see him when you're saying give us space. Well, then you walk by faith, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I can see. It's not so much a negative, hurtful thing he's trying to. I separate things like this. If it's negative, painful, and hurtful, I look for, is there an attack? That's my go-to. Just because of what I've done.
I gotta say something.
Yeah.
About it. Because I think that is a very Christian response. First of all, I want to say it's not a Jewish response. Okay, in the Jewish world, there's no devil and demons who are after you.
Okay.
They exist, but not in the same context as they do in the Christian world. Okay, and I've learned a lot from this actually. So let's give the devil his due. That's a very twisted way of saying it, but and this is not sympathy for the devil.
Right. I got you.
Okay, but in the book of Job, the devil is kicking around, the Christian devil or the Jewish Satan, which means adversary. Okay. Is kicking around in the halls of heaven.
Right.
God doesn't bump into him on the earth or in hell.
Correct.
Which is where the Christian devil resides.
Gotcha. Totally.
Okay. So that should give you a whole lot of pause. Right there.
I'm listening.
As a Christian. And he says, what have you been up to? And he's like, well, I'm just going to and fro on the earth. Why does he say that? Why is that? They seem to know what they're talking about. There's no real problem with this conversation. Right. Because that's his job. That's his job. His job is to go around and be an opponent, right? To be an adversary. Okay, so what does John Vervaeke talk about when he talks about opponent processing? What's the point of opponent processing?
Make you stronger. Is that correct?
I think so. I think that's right. Okay. I think that's what opponent processing is. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
It's what makes you anti-fragile, right? It's what gives you the strength to withstand if you're a plant, let's say, it gives you the
Right.
strength to withstand wind, sunshine, drought,
Mhm.
floods, right? Because you've been
Right.
out there dealing with it all, and
Right.
you've
Right.
you've made systems within yourself, that can combat it, right? Or
Right.
withstand it,
Mhm.
or stand it, right? So I don't think that suffering is an attack.
I agree with you, and I don't want to sound like I'm saying that. Okay, well maybe okay. Let me before I say I agree with you. Maybe in my heart of hearts, maybe I do think that, and I'm just dealing with it now.
Maybe.
I'm like, okay, no, because what I really liked that I will take away from this is when you said the cross. Um, he's suffering, and it's the beginning. In the beginning,
Mhm.
that's it's almost like I equate in the beginning was the word or the lamb that was slain. And so I'm kind of putting together that in the beginning was first the crucifixion, and that's what makes this universe. That's what I was hearing from you. Is that correct?
That's, well, like, these are not my own ideas. These are things
No,
that
no, but I'm
these are
getting,
things that Father John Bear has illumined for me.
yeah,
Okay, and so one of the things he John Bear talks about is that in Genesis, when God creates the human being, before he creates humans, he says, "Let there be, let there be, let there be." Right? Let there be
right,
light. Let there be this. Let there be, But when he comes to the human being, he says, "Let us make." And in
right.
Hebrew, that is, "Let us be making." Or it gives you the sense that this is this is a work in the making. Okay,
Oh, okay,
this
okay,
is not
okay.
something that is just made, done, right?
Oh, okay, yeah,
But
yeah,
it's
yeah.
an actual process.
Okay,
And
gotcha.
and so, like, for Orthodox Christianity, they don't talk about themselves as being saved, because that's a
Right.
done deal. They talk about themselves as becoming saved.
Okay, I like that.
Becoming.
Okay,
They're in the process
right,
of becoming, right?
right.
So, and that's where it comes from. It comes from that part of Genesis, right? Where God says, "Let us be making."
Hmm.
And then John Bear makes the point that on the cross, Jesus says, "It is finished."
Okay.
And he's pointing at the creation story. Tetelestai is the word that he uses, that Christ uses. And he's referring to creation,
Hmm.
because he is now the way, the truth, and the life. He has made the way, right? He has lived the life, and he
Right.
has shown us what it means to be God in the way that he died as a human being. And those are also John Bear's words.
Okay.
So, so this is why, and John Bear, gets this from Irenaeus and Athanasius
Hmm.
and Gregory of Nyssa and Origen, and
Okay.
all the way back there. Yeah. So all that to say, when we see the Christ,
Hmm.
which means we recognize the anointed one,
Hmm.
right? The Son of God. When
Okay.
we see that at the cross. We see that in the midst of suffering.
Hmm.
This is in reference to what Mark was talking about, be earlier with, how, I don't see God when I leave a party, right?
Hmm.
But then I do actually think, and Meister Eckhart talks about that in this sermon. I think Jed and I are going to get into it next week. Um, that those two things can come together, right? So so it's a question of separating contemplation, or the beatific vision, right, that monks have, even Tibetan Buddhist monks, where they just shrivel up and die in the wind, right? So Eckhart says doing just that is, I think he quotes Jesus as saying, that's the tree that produces no fruit and needs to be cut down. And I was like, whoa. Because we think of these guys as holy men, right? But for Eckhart, it leads to acts of charity.
Okay.
So the contemplation leads to acts of charity. And and George MacDonald talks, and I talked about this with Jed. George MacDonald talks about thought and act being as one with God, one in the same thing. So when God thinks, something happens. Like he's acting, his thinking and acting are the same. For us, we do that on a linear scale, right? We think and then we act.
Right.
And because of that, we want to separate. We want to make a distinction between thinking and acting.
Mm-hmm.
But what Eckhart's trying to do in the sermon is he's trying to bring those things together so that the thinking and the acting become one. So, and this is being like God. And you were talking about Brother Lawrence earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about being in conversation with God all day long, right?
Mm-hmm.
As prayer.
Yeah.
Which is what your life becomes.
Mm-hmm.
Your life becomes a prayer when you live like that, right?
Right. Right.
We always want to make these distinctions with division. So like in the Meister Eckhart sermon, he has this imaginary person saying, yeah, but I mean, how am I supposed to contemplate when I'm busy making soup, or something to that effect, you know? Or how am I going to make soup when I'm busy contemplating?
Right.
And he's proposing that we can do both at the same time.
Right.
Which is what Brother Lawrence is saying to you.
Right.
Like in making his life a prayer, right?
Right.
So
it's interesting. I've had an allergic reaction to most, and I like Catholics, all right? So, but most Catholics suffering, I'm like, no, we don't. Oh, no, we don't. But talking to you, I'm like, it's interesting. The cross, the crucifixion, is the moment of the most pain and suffering ever. And it's interesting to, I don't know, I'm thinking about the pain and suffering. It's landing on me differently is the best I could, I feel things first and then figure them out.
yeah.
And so I'm like, this is landing on me in a soft way. I'm like, never thought about it that way. That's not bad. And okay, I really like that. And then having, again, for me, it's almost like a time loop. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. And
Exactly, it is. Yes, it is. It's intentionally like that, because Origen says that in order to understand the end, you must know the beginning. And in order to understand the beginning, you must know the end.
Right. It's a nice, very tidy loop. It's a nice circle. I like that.
And John does it intentionally, right? When he starts his gospel, in the beginning was the Word. It's a play on Genesis.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's what it is. He's basically setting the stage to show his Christology in Genesis, where Jesus is. And I mean, on the road to Emmaus, that's what Christ does. He opens the scriptures, which were the Hebrew scriptures, and he shows them where he was in those scriptures all the time that they didn't see. Okay.
Yes. And what go ahead. I'm sorry. What I really like, go ahead. What you got?
No, you go, Ron.
All right. It's just what I really enjoyed is the lamb that was slain, and then the crucifixion are moments in time that are one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. See that yeah. That I
It's
like quite a bit.
center of the world. The cross is the center of the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. 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 I mean, everyone
And
knows that
it
kind
is
Yeah.
a depiction of a center, right?
I like that. That's fun. I like that. That's funny. I like that. I like that quite a bit. That I'm gonna have fun with this one for a while.
Yeah,
This
think on
is
it. You know, you should read On the Incarnation by Saint, I think it's Athanasius. I should look it up. It's an old. You can get copies of it, even online probably. It's called
Yeah.
On the Incarnation.
Incarnation by Saint Athanasius.
Saint
Or
Athanasius. That's it.
interesting. So what's his
Early
shtick?
Church Fathers.
Good guy, good book. What's and I really I don't know, and I've heard of him. I'm looking at English.
Well, you know, it's kind of tragic and something that I realized in my recent journey, is that a lot of the doctrine that we have as Protestants was established by men like Athanasius and Origen.
Sure. Oh no, I absolutely
And we don't
Yeah.
and we don't know anything about them.
Yes, I agree with
I
you.
didn't even know they existed.
Right. I stumbled across Saint Teresa of Avila years ago, and she's one of my favorites. Brother Lawrence, and I'm like, oh, I don't like most of these Christians except for Brother Lawrence, except for Saint Teresa of Avila. And by the way, who else is there? So yeah, and then so this fella, thank you, on the Incarnation.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Mark,
That was
what are you thinking about, Mark?
Well, I've been pondering on when you reminded me of the accuser. I've known it forever. I can't remember when. Yeah, that Satan. That's the position he takes in. The prosecutor, the accuser, the opponent, but accuser that for some reason that really stuck out in my mind, and it's the as an aspect in caring for my as a caregiver, guilt
Yeah.
lays on you. It's like one of those like a ridiculously heavy blanket. It's a weight because it's just a sense of guilt because there's never enough. And then even when people say, oh, the worst thing is to hear somebody say, you're such a good son, it has the opposite effect of what I know what they intend.
Well,
but
here's the thing. I'm just gonna imagine that the guilt comes from the fact that there's a conversation going on in your head while you're caring for your mother, who you love. But who wants that job? Who wants to do that? Who wishes that they didn't have to? Probably everyone, me included, right? And then when those thoughts come up, it's like, oh, what a horrid person you are. How selfish. Here comes the accuser, right? How selfish you are. How self-absorbed. How egotistical,
Yeah.
And
everything comes in. It comes in a mile a minute, and
Right,
probably
right.
you dare not look too closely because it'll swallow you up.
Right. But here's the thing, Mark, and I just want to encourage you with this because well, there's a couple of things. First of all, if you remember that God is your father and you put yourself into the position of being his son, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then there's no way that those accusations are actually valid in any way, because those are not things you would say to your boy who was doing his very best to look after his mother.
That's
Okay.
funny you say that, because that's the mental process I put myself through on a regular basis. Is what would you say? What's the dialogue happening, right? That accusatory dialogue within. I
Yeah.
then have to step back, and one of the exercises I engage in, I've been doing this forever. The Buddhist thing, I guess, is I picked up through meditation. Is that, well, how would you really how now? What would you say to somebody else? You would never talk to somebody else the way you're talking to yourself right now. So, just in a way of putting it,
Well, there's that, but then if you think about it in terms of father and sonship,
right,
it's even more powerful, Mark.
right,
Right? Because your son is a boy, and he's going to fail because he's a boy. Okay?
Right.
Because he's immature. He hasn't grown up yet. He doesn't know all the ins and outs. He's going to be selfish. He's going to have an ego. He's going to have all those problems. And that's who you are to God.
right.
You're his son. You're a boy. Just as your mother is a little girl. Okay? It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other side of that coin, not to just dismiss all that opponent processing, but actually utilize it, actually take it as a gift and say, okay, good. I need to look at this. I need to see what this actually looks like. And I need it to make me a better person. As painful as that is the most painful. It's easy to feel loved. It's not easy to look at yourself in the mirror. Right?
Yeah.
But do it. Do it for the sake of heaven. That's what I would say.
Okay. All right, I want to close it down. Thank you, Sherry.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately, I'm going to have to take the stream down temporarily, edit out a couple names I let slip, and then I'll reload it as a video. Sorry, guys. Sorry but I'll get to it. I'll snip the names
stuff
out.
out. Yeah, well,
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you for the good words.
It was fun.
It's a wild ride, guys. Thank you.
Okay, bye. Thanks a lot,
Bye.
guys. Bye-bye.